Welcome back to the channel where we simplify cybersecurity. I'm Greg Flatt from Flat Earth Networking, and in each video, we break down complex cybersecurity topics into clear, actionable insights, helping you protect your organization effectively and affordably. In this video, we're going to be talking about offensive security and why it is so critical for small to medium enterprises. If you find our content helpful, please consider subscribing to stay up to date on future cybersecurity tips. Okay, let's get into it. You and a friend are hiking in the woods when suddenly you spot a bear charging towards you. You both run for your lives, but then you notice your friend stopping to tighten his shoelaces. Panicked, you shout, "What are you doing? You can't outrun a bear." Your friend replies with a grin, "I don't have to outrun the bear. I just have to outrun you." It's a classic joke, but in the world of cybersecurity, it carries a nugget of wisdom. Hackers, much like the bear, often go after the easiest prey. Your business's cybersecurity doesn't need to be absolutely bulletproof. It just needs to be stronger than the next easy target to make attackers look elsewhere. So, why does this matter to a small or medium-sized enterprise? Because today's cybercriminals are increasingly hunting in your neck of the woods. There's a persistent myth that hackers only target large companies. Many small business owners think, we're too small to bother with. Reality paints a very different picture. Almost half of cyber attacks now target small businesses with under 1,000 employees. Recently, 61% of all small businesses reported they were a target of attack. Shockingly, more than half of small companies have no cybersecurity measures in place at all, leaving their digital doors unlocked because they assume the bear isn't coming for them. Unfortunately, the bears are out there, and they often prefer easy pickings. If your business has glaring vulnerabilities, it's like a big neon sign saying, "Open for attack." This is where the concept of offensive security comes in. In this video, we'll explore what offensive security is, why even smaller businesses should care about playing offense, and how a strong offense can ultimately build an even stronger defense. By the end, you'll see why outrunning the cyber bear, and maybe even scaring it off, is not only possible for small to medium enterprises, but essential to surviving in today's threat landscape. You might be surprised to learn that the idea of testing your own defenses by staging attacks isn't new at all. It goes back decades. In the late 1960s, at the height of the Cold War, the U.S. Department of Defense took an unusual approach to protect its early computer systems. They assembled special teams of experts nicknamed Tiger Teams under computer pioneer Willis Ware. Their job was simple: attack our own systems before our enemies do, and find the weaknesses. These Tiger Teams were essentially the first ethical hackers, conducting what we now call penetration tests. In 1972, a researcher named James P. Anderson even formalized a step-by-step guide for these early penetration tests, establishing a methodology that underpins offensive security even today. Fast forward to the 1990s, the era when businesses and governments really started waking up to cybersecurity. In 1995, a tool with the name Satan was released to help admins scan their networks for vulnerabilities. Around the same time, the term ethical hacking entered into the mainstream, popularized by IT professionals and even embraced by companies like IBM. By the early 2000s, organizations like OWASP, the Open Web Application Security Project, began publishing frameworks to guide penetration testing. In other words, the idea of offensive security, actively probing your own systems for weaknesses, has a very long history. It started as a military necessity and evolved into an industry best practice. Today, offensive security isn't just for governments and tech giants. The tools and techniques have trickled down, and they're increasingly accessible to businesses of all sizes. Knowing this history is important because it shows that offensive security is not a fad or an extreme sport for hackers. It is a proven strategy to protect data assets. If it worked to secure early military systems and today's Fortune 500 companies, it can work for your business too. So what exactly do we mean by the term offensive security? Simply put, it's about thinking like an attacker. Instead of only building higher walls and stronger locks, traditional defensive security, you also send in your own friendly attackers to test the defenses. This often means hiring a professional to simulate cyber attacks on your company, a process known as penetration testing or ethical hacking, to see how an adversary might break in. The National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, defines penetration testing as imitating real cyber attacks to pinpoint vulnerabilities before the bad guys do. It's like hiring a skilled burglar to try to break into your house so they can find the weak spots in your security system and you can fix them before a real criminal strikes. Offensive security usually involves a few components that work together. One component is vulnerability assessment. Regularly scanning your systems for known weaknesses. Imagine checking all of your windows and doors to ensure they're not left open or unlocked. Another is penetration testing itself. This is actively trying to exploit those weaknesses in a controlled, safe manner to see what an attacker could achieve. Another piece is threat intelligence, which means staying up to date on the latest hacker tactics and emerging threats, kind of like neighborhood watch alerts for new burglary techniques. Combined, these measures give you a proactive stance. Instead of waiting to react to an incident, like defensive security does, you're anticipating and preempting those attacks. This is all done by the good guys, either security professionals or even your own trained staff, with your permission. So no actual harm is done. Think of it as a fire drill for your network. By practicing an emergency in a low-stakes way, you ensure that if a real fire or cyber attack comes, you're not caught off guard. The goal is to find and fix the cracks in your defenses before an attacker finds them. Here's the key. Every weakness you discover and strengthen now is one less opportunity for a real hacker later. That's how an offensive approach ends up bolstering your defense. It's a mindset shift from playing only goalie to also occasionally playing striker, taking the fight to the threats to keep your business safe. Okay, at this point you're probably thinking, offensive security sounds fine for big companies with big IT budgets. But we really need this? The short answer is absolutely. In fact, a proactive approach can be even more critical for smaller businesses. Cyber criminals have learned that small to medium enterprises often have weaker security, making them a high-reward, low-risk target. An attacker might only get a few $1,000s from breaching a smaller company, but if it's easy to do, they'll do it, and then they can repeat the crime across hundreds of these size firms. These attacks have become automated, with criminals using tools to scan the internet for vulnerable systems 24/7. It's not a person picking you out. It's a drone army of bears sniffing around for an easy meal. If you present an open door or an obvious weak spot, they will find it. This is where the bear analogy comes full circle. In an environment where hackers are probing everyone, you don't have to be unhackable, but you do want to avoid being the lowest hanging fruit. It's like reducing your radar signature online, making your business a smaller, harder to see target. If your neighbor's network is wide open and yours has locks and alarms, guess who the attacker is more likely to go after? As one cybersecurity strategist quipped, you don't need to outrun the hacker. Outrunning the other companies may be enough. In practice, this means implementing more security than the bare minimum, so an automated scan or lazy cybercriminal will bypass you in favor of an easier victim. Let's talk about what that looks like. Suppose hackers unleash a scanning tool across a range of IP addresses. That's a very common tactic. It's like a thief jiggling every doorknob on the street. Now, if your company has taken an offensive approach, you've likely closed and reinforced your doors. You've patched the software holes, shut off unnecessary entry points, and maybe even put up an intrusion alarm. Meanwhile, say a similar sized company down the road hasn't bothered. Their digital doors are unlocked. The scanner finds a weakness in their network, an outdated unprotected server, for example, and bingo. That company gets hit with ransomware. Meanwhile, your company didn't even show up on the hacker's radar because you weren't broadcasting any obvious vulnerabilities. In essence, putting more effort into cybersecurity than your peers can make you a much less enticing target. It's the unfortunate reality of cybercrime. You don't have to be the fastest, you just can't be the slowest. Now, this isn't about celebrating anyone else's misfortune or engaging in anything unethical. It's about smartly prioritizing your own survival. Offensive security helps you prioritize the most critical risks and address them proactively. A truly determined attacker might still try to breach a well-secured small to medium enterprise, but the vast majority of threats out there are opportunistic. They'll move on to the next target if you show resistance. In the rare event that someone does target you specifically, you'll be far better prepared to handle it if you've been testing your defenses regularly. In short, for SMEs, a strong offense can literally translate into survival. Many smaller companies never recover from a serious cyber incident. By contrast, those who invest in offensive security are stacking the odds in their favor, making sure that if the bear comes, it goes after someone else, or at least that you have a fighting chance to fend it off. It's all well and good to talk about theory and analogies, but what does this look like in real life? Let's look at a couple of examples that illustrate the impact of offensive security. Our first story involves a retail giant and a small business that became an unexpected weak link. You may remember the infamous Target breach of 2013. Tens of millions of customer credit cards were compromised, but what's less known is how the attackers got in. They didn't initially break into Target's systems directly. Instead, they went after a tiny third-party vendor, a small HVAC company that serviced some Target stores. This firm, Fazio Mechanical Services, had network credentials to log into Target's systems for billing and contracts. Hackers targeted Fazio, likely knowing a small vendor might not have ironclad security, and stole those credentials. They slipped into Target's network undetected until it was too late. The result? A breach that cost Target an estimated hundreds of millions of dollars in damages and remediation. For our purpose, the lesson is clear. A small business with weak security can open the door to a massive disaster. If Fazio Mechanical had undergone a security audit or penetration test of its own systems, maybe they would have caught the vulnerability. Reportedly, it was a phishing email that let the attackers in. Perhaps they would have implemented two-factor authentication or other controls to protect the remote access to Target. We can't rewrite history, but we can learn from it. Even if you're a smaller cog in a much bigger machine, your security lapses can have significant consequences. Being proactive about security not only protects you, but also everyone you do business with. As the saying goes, you're only as strong as your weakest link. Don't let your company be that weak link. Now, for a more positive example, consider what happens when organizations take offensive security seriously. Adobe, the software company, provides a notable case. A number of years ago, Adobe suffered a high-profile breach. About 153 million user records were leaked, including passwords and credit card data. It was a huge wake-up call. In response, Adobe doubled down on offensive security. The company began regular, rigorous penetration testing of its own applications and networks, using both automated tools and skilled internal red teams, ethical hackers who try to break into their systems. In Adobe's own words, their security team started performing code-assisted penetration tests, combining automated and manual techniques to probe for weaknesses. Since implementing these offensive measures, Adobe has not made headlines with another breach of that magnitude. They turned a costly lesson into a success story by using offensive tactics to bolster their defenses. Now, Adobe is a tech giant, but the principle scales down. Find your weaknesses before the attackers do, and then fix them. That way you significantly reduce the chance of a nightmare scenario. Many smaller organizations have started doing just that. One payment software vendor adopted quarterly penetration tests and frequent vulnerability scans. As a result, they have not only achieved strict compliance certifications, but also continuously hardened their systems against threats. The payoff was clear. No major breaches, maintained customer trust, and the peace of mind that comes with knowing your cyber locks have been picked by a friendly professional, not a criminal. These examples underscore two sides of the coin. On one side, neglecting security, assuming you're too small to be noticed, can end in catastrophe. Not just for you, but partners and clients. Just ask Target's HVAC vendor. On the other side, embracing offensive security, even just the basics, done consistently, can turn a vulnerable business into a much tougher nut to crack. The experiences of real companies show that offensive security isn't just an abstract theory. It's a practical, effective approach that yields tangible benefits. You don't have to experience a breach to learn from this lesson. You can take a page from these stories and decide you're going to be proactive. Okay, maybe I've convinced you this is important, but what can you actually do about it, especially with limited budget or IT staff? The good news is that offensive security for SMEs doesn't have to break the bank or overwhelm your team. It's about taking practical, actionable steps to gradually strengthen your security posture. Here are some steps you can consider to get your journey started today. Number 1, educate yourself and your team. Begin by learning a bit more about common threats and vulnerabilities. You don't need a computer science degree. There are accessible resources out there. For instance, the Better Business Bureau has published practical data security guidelines tailored for small businesses. Also, organizations like National Cybersecurity Alliance offer free toolkits and workshops for SMEs. By understanding the basics of what hackers look for, weak passwords, outdated software, open ports, etc., you'll be better equipped to address them. Consider also fostering this knowledge in your team. Even a short security awareness training about phishing emails and good password practices can go a long way. Remember, offensive security isn't just about fancy hacking simulations. It starts with a mindset. Encourage your staff to think like an attacker. If I were trying to break into our company, how would I do it? The question can lead to very insightful discussions about where your defenses might be thin. Number 2, do a vulnerability scan of your digital assets. A vulnerability scan is like a health check for your IT systems. There are automated tools, some even free or low-cost services that will scan your network or website and report known weaknesses. Many small businesses can handle this step with the help of an IT consultant or knowledgeable IT employee. It might reveal that you have a server exposed to the internet that shouldn't be, or a critical software system that hasn't been patched and has a known flaw. Fixing those issues, such as installing updates, changing configurations, or closing unused ports, will instantly reduce your attack surface. It's the equivalent of discovering you left a window unlocked and locking it. Small steps like these can significantly improve your security and make you less of a target. Routine vulnerability scanning is one of the core practices in proactive offensive security for all businesses. You can start doing this on a schedule, say monthly or quarterly, to continually catch new issues as they arise. Third, engage in penetration testing scaled to your needs. The idea of hiring an ethical hacker might sound intimidating or expensive, but it's increasingly accessible. Many security firms offer penetration testing services tailored to small business budgets. You could start with a focused test on your most critical systems, have an expert try to break into your website or your office network. They will then provide you a report explaining how they got in, what vulnerabilities they found, and recommendations on how to fix them. This kind of test might be something you can do annually or when you're about to launch a new product or system. If cost is a concern, even a one-time or periodic test is better than none. Some companies also offer penetration testing as a service, where you can start small. The key is to experience that attacker's perspective in a controlled way. It's eye-opening. Many business owners have an aha moment the first time they see a pen tester effortlessly crack an old password or slip past a misconfigured firewall. It's much better to have that wake-up call from a friendly tester than from a real criminal. By addressing whatever issues you found, you harden your defensive significantly. 4, prioritize and protect your crown jewels. An important part of offensive security is knowing what you're defending. Take stock of what information or systems, if compromised, would seriously hurt your business. Is it your customer database, financial records, or perhaps your e-commerce storefront, or your email system? Once you identify your crown jewels, focus your offensive security efforts there first. Ensure those assets are being regularly tested and patched. If you handle customer credit card info, you might prioritize a penetration test on that payment system. It might even be required for compliance. If your operations would grind to a halt if your email or cloud storage got hacked, focus on securing those. By focusing on critical areas, you make the best use of your resources. It's like reinforcing the strongest locks on the doors that protect your most valuable rooms. Finally, 5, build offensive practices into routine. Finally, make offensive security a habit. Cyber threats are not one and done. New vulnerabilities and attack methods emerge all the time. This means you should plan to regularly repeat these processes: frequent vulnerability scans, penetration tests, continuous learning, and updates. It might sound like a lot, but think of it as an ongoing quality assurance program for your business's security. Each cycle you get better, and it doesn't always have to be outsiders doing the attacking. You can encourage your IT staff to conduct mini red team exercises or drills internally. The point is to keep offensive mindset alive. Companies that do this find that over time they catch issues early and nothing catches them completely off guard. As one security consultancy noted, even starting with small steps like routine scans and periodic tests can significantly reduce the likelihood of a successful attack, protecting your reputation and your bottom line. By taking these steps, you're essentially training for the race. You're lacing up your running shoes. Each action makes you a bit faster, a bit more prepared, and a bit more confident that you can outrun that threat. And here's something empowering. Every step you take offensively not only strengthens your defense, but also puts you in a more controlled, less fearful position. Instead of anxiously wondering if you're exposed to hackers, you'll know where you stand and that you're actively improving. That confidence can be a game changer for you as a leader and for your whole team's approach to security. The old saying holds true. The best defense is a good offense. We began with the bear in the woods scenario, and it's worth reflecting on it one more time. In your business, you don't have to be the easy meal for the cyber bear. By proactively testing and fortifying your defenses, you can significantly improve your odds of avoiding a breach. A strong offense, as we've discussed, builds a much stronger defense. When you hire ethical hackers or use security tools to probe your own systems, you're effectively immunizing yourself against real threats out there. It's like a vaccine, a small controlled dose of attack to build resistance to actual attacks. We learned that offensive security has deep roots and isn't some radical new idea. It's a proven approach used by everyone from the military to major corporations. We clarified that offensive security for businesses like yours means thinking like an attacker, finding your weak spots before the bad guys do, through steps like vulnerability scans and penetration tests. We saw why this matters so much for small to medium enterprises. Attackers are out there, and they're often lazy and opportunistic, so you want to make sure that you're not the low-hanging fruit. Real-world stories, from a small HVAC contractor unwittingly enabling a huge breach to a software company sparing itself further pain by ramping up testing, showed us that these aren't theoretical concerns. They're real, and the stakes are high. Finally, we broke down some practical first steps you can take right now to start adopting an offensive security mindset in your business, even on a tight budget. Offensive security might sound like a complex target, but it boils down to a simple principle. Don't wait to be a victim. As a business leader, you have the power to take initiative and protect what you've built. I encourage you to take one of the steps we discussed. Maybe schedule a vulnerability scan or sit down with an IT advisor to plan a modest penetration test for a new system that you're rolling out. Even watching this video has hopefully armed you with a perspective that you need to start a conversation with your company about taking cybersecurity to the next level. The key takeaway is that offensive security is not about attacking others, it's about empowering yourself. It's a strategy to make sure that when the cyber bears come prowling, you're not the one caught by surprise. You've worked too hard building your business to leave it defenseless. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. If you've found value in this content, please give it a thumbs up. It helps our channel grow and allows more businesses to benefit from these cybersecurity insights. And don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss out on our latest videos. And remember, if you're looking for personalized cybersecurity support or guidance on any of the topics we cover, Flat Earth Networking is here to help. Visit us at flatearth.net or contact us directly. Links and details are in the description below. So lace up those running shoes, get ahead of the threats, and rest easier knowing that you've stacked the deck in favor of your company's safety and success. With a good offense on your side, you can face the cybersecurity wilderness with confidence.